Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our first ever webinar that we are conducting on behalf of Kurzfeld Law. It's an absolute honor to be seeing you all here, meeting you all here, and talking to you all about immigration, Canada, and many other things. We are very interested. We love to talk to you all, and we love to interact with you all and tell you our stories and tell you what we have on store for you in terms of immigration. We love to help all of you come to Canada. So here we are on behalf of Kurzfeld Law holding our first ever webinar. Before we go into our seminar and what we are going to talk about today, we would like to welcome our guests today. We have with us Mr. Ronen Kurzfeld, who is a licensed immigration lawyer based in Canada with over 20 years of experience and experience helping over 10,000 people. So we will have to listen to his perspectives on what the express entry is going to be like in the future and many other things in relation to immigration itself. So let us welcome on stage Mr. Ronen Kurzfeld here. Mr. Ronen, how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. Sunny day here in Toronto, so we're all very happy.
Thank you very much. Nice to have you on the show and listen to your perspectives about the express entry and what's going to happen in the future. And we also have with us his colleague at office, Mr. Jason Ibanez. Hello, how are you, Jason?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure to have you and talk to you about immigration and whatnot. So before we go into the questions and the detailed analysis of what the express entry is going to be like in the future, let me formally introduce to you what we at Kurzfeld Law do. Right, Kurzfeld Law Office is an immigration law office, fully licensed and insured by the Canadian Toronto immigration authorities, focusing on immigration law, and the headquarters is based in Toronto, Ontario, and the firm delivers unparalleled representation at consistently reasonable fees and reasonable payment plans. So this firm is headed by Ronen Kurzfeld, who has a dedicated career in immigration law, and he graduated from Osgoode Hall Law School, Canada's largest and oldest law school. He has done prestigious intensive programs on immigration and refugee law, and so here he is through Kurzfeld Law. He offers full service on Toronto immigration and Canada immigration, basically, where they handle all kinds of immigration cases from express entry to business applications to enforcement applications. And we represent, in fact, clients from all over the world, and we even represent in almost any language of your own choice. So we even have handled a lot of complex and sophisticated cases. So all you have to do is, for your immigration needs, get in touch with us. So today we are here to talk about immigration, something that has been disturbing us a lot, which is the express entry program. There has been a lot of uncertainty about it over the past few months, or maybe the last year, because of COVID-19. So we would like to hear Jason's and Ronen's thoughts about it. So let us listen from them. So let me take into stage and ask the first question from Ronen himself and ask him, okay, Ronen, what do you think happened to express entry? Why did we have such a long halt for the most popular immigration program, the express entry? Why do you think so?
Okay, so there are a few reasons for that. The first one, of course, I always say when I talk about express entry, we have to look at history. So when we look at history prior to 2015, so express entry started in January 2015. Prior to that, we had a first come, first served basis. So if somebody was eligible, we would file the application and wait in the queue. And we would wait and wait and wait and wait. And there were very big backlogs. So what the IRCC did, at one point, they just wiped out all the files and they started this nice program called Express Entry. So what it is, it's a program that, as everybody knows, you have to be eligible. Once you're eligible, they put you in a pool and then you have to be invited. So until the pandemic, and that's the first reason why there was such a big halt, we had an invitation about every couple of weeks. But then the pandemic hit and the world changed. And that was the first reason why obviously there was so express entry never stopped, but they stopped inviting people from overseas. under the federal skilled worker. That's number one. Number two, immigration has very big backlogs. And the way to control the backlog is through the invitations. So right now, the very, very interesting announcement is that it will resume in a couple of weeks. So there are two main reasons: A, the backlogs, but IRCC said that they took care of it and now they can handle very comfortably all the numbers that they're getting through Express Entry. And number two, the pandemic, which hopefully is kind of behind us.
Right, brilliant. So, is there any latest developments on the express entry announced by the IRCC Canada? Any detailed explanations that has been given with regard to that?
Yeah, so there are three main changes. Some is, I call it a constant change. So first of all, the big news, as I said, they will resume the federal skilled worker invitation. So that's the biggest source, Express Entry, for Canadian immigration. And one of the biggest group out of that was the federal skilled worker, mainly people who currently overseas and are not in Canada, whether they studied or work. So this is, I would still call it a change because we didn't see an invitation like that for about 8 months. Number two, they are discussing something which is going to it's a revolution, okay, in terms of immigration. They're going to go into probably occupation specific draws in addition to the regular draws. So for example, if somebody is in IT or engineering or any other occupation, even chefs or cooks or anything that the government needs to get pretty fast, they will actually make a draw just for that. Okay, so it's an occupation specific draw. So this is number one. So I apologize. I think my team's phone is open. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'll just close that. So sorry about that. So as I was saying, that's number one. Now, even if you don't have a high score, but if your occupation gets called, then this is a huge change. So that's number one. Number two, around November, they're changing the NOC code, which that's what governs which occupations are eligible. And they're going to add 16 more occupations to the list of eligibility, including truck drivers, nurse assistants. Before that, nurse aides were a low skill NOC. So right now it's going to be included in the Express Entry. So they're going to add 16 more occupations.
Right, brilliant. Okay, Ronen, I also would love to know, like, if there is going to be, the Canadian government through the IRCC also said that they are going to prioritize based on labor market demands. Is it going to completely outrule the idea of, getting people based on their points, regardless of whether whether they fit the labor market in Canada or not?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So the Express Entry will still continue the way it is, meaning you have to be eligible. You have to meet the requirements. For federal skilled worker right now, it's 67 points. And the criteria, they look at your age, they look at your education, your language skills and experience. But what happened, many people, let's say they may be older. And when I say older, it's not old. It's 35, 36, 40. That group lost a lot of points for age. But right now, because as you mentioned, looks like the government are going to go occupation specific and maybe even experience specific, then many people who may think that they have a low CRS score and have no chance to be invited, that may change if their occupation is in the right place. So I'll give you an example. Ontario PNP used to have draws for iTech, okay? And they picked people with very low score, but as long as the experience was there, those people were selected.
Right, brilliant. So another thing that I would like to also know is that, is there a threshold of now talking about the CRS score? It has been quite uncertain because earlier, before COVID hit us, there was a certain range of a score that you need to hit in order to be, quite sure, or I mean, even try express entry, right? So that was around 460 based on your education, your age, your work experience, and stuff like that. That counted up to there. And do you think that with this long halt and the backlog that it has created, the time that we spent will increase the CRS score threshold up to maybe 500 or more, or do you think it will still be sufficient for someone with 460 or around that scores to be eligible or to get selected more faster?
So that's a concern a lot of people are voicing. But because of the changes, we recommend everybody, if you're eligible, put yourself in the pool. So if we look at it historically, I always say we know what happened in the past. We don't know what will happen in the future. They used to have scores of 410, 412, 420, 430, 442. So remember, they used the express entry to control backlog. So if they said, okay, this time we only want 2,000 people, they went with the score. But because of the changes that they're going to make, it's not necessarily going to be the case. So, as I mentioned, if somebody has 350, but they're going to select based on occupation, they will be selected. So, they also had about a year ago, they had an invitation for Canadian experience class for people who had 75 points. And that was a shock for many people. And a lot of people didn't want to put themselves in the pool because they said, well, even for Canadian experience class, I have 250 points, then I have no chance. Why even bother? But that really changed the landscape. And especially when they're going to go with occupation specific, I think there's no way to tell how low the score can go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It actually was a big shock for everyone when this the IRCC invited over 28,000 people last
Right.
year, and the last person invited had just 75 points. That's great, and that gives us a lot of hope. Like people who have very low points,
And
it still encourages you to be in the pool somehow, so that you can get selected at some point, and if there is a chance, and if the Canadian government, of course, considers your application. So that gives us good hope, of course, and we would definitely encourage more of you to kind of see if you can get into the pool, try to stay in there, and do what you can to increase your scores a little by little, so that eventually you get picked up. It's a slow process, definitely, as we understand. So the next question, let us get Jason Ibanez on board here with us. Let's get him to talk as well. We've had heard a lot from Ronen so far. Jason, do you think this plan that Justin Trudeau had, the immigration plans that were put in place from 2021 to 2024, like they had targeted over 1.3 million people to be taken into Canada through their immigration plans, and a lot of that plans were halted. I mean, not halted. I should say it got affected because of COVID, and there's a lot of uncertainty because of the wars and so on and so forth, the Afghanistan crisis and the Ukrainian crisis and so on and so forth. It looked affected, right? But do you think they will extend this immigration plan in place from 2024 to maybe 2026? Because Justin Trudeau happens to be in place in leadership till at least 2026. What are your thoughts on that?
So basically, what's going to happen? This is what I believe, right? I believe that they'll continue to do the rapid immigration program until even beyond 2026. It's more because of immigration is the lifeblood of Canada. People rely on people coming in, skilled workers from outside to work. Okay, we need people in Canada, so I don't think it will stop at all. It will continue to grow and grow. And the other thing is, with Ronan was saying with regards to the express entry, um, there are candidates outside Canada right now who are under the 300, 200 scores, but based on their specific occupations, they might be able to get inside Canada and get invited. More, I think it's gonna be they're gonna be more open to people coming in.
Right, specifically with the labor shortage issues that we are facing in Canada, and the other issues, I'm sure they will try to keep it going up and about. I think till late, we do not know when it will end. So you say that there's a lot of hope in that as well, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So I also had heard a lot of people, even in the comment section right just now, asking if there is, like, for those people who don't specifically fulfill the criteria established in the express entry draws. Do you think there are new PNP programs which might be popular, which might get popular in the market, and which are interesting to see the Canadian IRCC opening up?
Yeah, so there's actually like two or three programs that opened recently. Okay, for specifically to uh, provinces of Saskatchewan, Alberta, and even Nova Scotia. Okay,
Mm.
and because one of the downsides, or like the toughest hurdle for people coming from outside Canada, is a job offer. Okay, so they actually had a program, let's say for Alberta, for health workers and tech applicants. Okay, or in this field, that they can submit their expression of interest without a job offer. Okay, and the only minimum requirement basically for people coming from outside is they need to have an express entry profile, for example in Alberta, and you have a minimum score of 300 points. Okay,
Okay.
and if you have that one, you might be able to get in. Okay, and there's also the Saskatchewan expression of interest. As long as you have the language and experience in your field, and you meet the minimum threshold of 60 points, you would be able to submit an expression of interest and your profile in the pool. And that always, it's better to have something in the pool than not being just looking from the outside. So I think that's a good thing. And the other thing would be when it comes to job offers, the Atlantic Immigration Program, right? Um, I think that would be very good for people who have contacts, or even people who have strong experience to look for job offers inside the Atlantic provinces.
Right, brilliant. So I just heard that, I'm not sure if it's right or wrong. I need you to shed some light on it. Do you think that, the AIPP, if I'm not mistaken, is the Alberta Provincial Nominee Program? Do you think that it comes without a pool? They said your process starts from the day you start applying for it. Is that true, Mr. Jason?
It's more of an expression of interest. Okay, so you basically submit your profile in the pool technically, and then you wait for an invitation to apply. Sometimes it's connected to the express entry profile as well. So let's say you're an engineer, okay, from outside, and then you submit your profile in the pool. You meet the minimum requirements for being a foreign skilled worker, and let's say you choose Alberta as your destination. Normally, when IRCC, the system tries to invite people, like providing with notice of interest, they would check if you're interested in the province. So even let's say you have 320 points, but you chose Alberta as your province of destination, and they see that you're an engineer, there's a possibility that they will invite you.
Brilliant, brilliant. So that's a lot of hope. That's a lot of hope for people who are in the industry, and they who kind of want to try PNP and get into one of these provinces. That's a lot of hope for them. So just the last question, Mr. Ronen. Uh, can I just ask you? There is this talk about a global recession that is going to hit us late this year or early next year, and we do not know how the magnanimity of such a recession, right? So do you think if such a recession hits us, will it affect or impact the express entry a little bit further?
Well, in fact, the only way Canada, as Jason mentioned, can survive, because our demographics here, we have pretty much an older society. A lot of baby boomers are retiring from the workforce. The only way to survive demographically with such a huge landmass is through immigration. And as you can see, traditionally, the numbers, irrespective of the economy is doing really well here, but irrespective of the economic climate in the world, it's going up and up and up. So nobody, of course, can predict the numbers that IRCC or the parliament is going to approve. But you have to remember the express entry is the main source for immigrants to Canada. And one more thing I was just going to add to what Jason said. Each province has its own specific program. So some provinces like Saskatchewan do not require job offers. Others, even in Alberta, in many events they do. But usually what we do when we get the application, we do an analysis of all the provinces in addition to the express entry, and of course the circumstances of the applicant. And then we tell the applicant, okay, without a job offer, this, you should zero in on this province or that province, or just the express entry, or a combination thereof.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronen and Mr. Jason, for answering those questions with regards to the future of express entry and what it would look like for someone who wants to pursue permanent residency applications from outside Canada and inside Canada. We have a few questions that have been raised by our viewers from all across the globe. Let's take it up and see how we can shed some light on what they want to know. So the first question that I would like to put up here is. Kramika Purana asks us that there is this PGW extension that was announced. There was no announcements regarding how to apply. Does anyone, either one of you, want to address what is there any updates with regards to this, or what is the situation out there?
So yeah, so we just recently there was an announcement yesterday from the immigration minister that they're going to start you know they're going to allow people who have their study or their postgraduate work permits expired from September 20, 2021 up to December 31, 2022 to apply for an extension, an 18-month extension. The actual policy or guidelines for this announcement has not yet come out, but it may be. I expect it to be in the next 2 weeks.
Right, brilliant, brilliant.
It will probably coincide with the July 6th start of the express entry draws.
Okay, brilliant. Another question that somebody has asked us is that how long does visiting visa or a conference takes? I applied 3 months ago, and even the date of conference is out now. What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, so for visitor visa, it's not about how long it takes. It depends, first of all, on the processing center. That's, of course, number one. But remember, for visitor visa, you have to show three things. A, the purpose of the visit. B, that there's enough funds to support the visit. And C, that there are ties to go back home. So if the purpose of the visit looks like expired, so it was a conference that is already done, I would definitely usually, unless there's another reason to come here, you would have to update IRCC, because when the officer will look at it and they're going to see that the invitation for the conference, let's say, was last month, of course that's going to be an issue. So the first thing that person has to address again the reason for the visit.
Right. Another question, which has been an interesting question, is that young Miller asks us concerning the occupation-specific entry we spoke about for the special PNP programs or the express entry itself. Does that also help with ease of job acquisition for the immigrants? Is there any hope that they can get?
So I always say that. Really, if somebody comes here now, there's a huge labor shortage. Okay, from any level, from a lawyer to engineer to lower skilled jobs, people needs workers here. It's the biggest talk. Okay, we deal with many employers and employees, and I've never seen employers that desperate. Now, I always say the government, sometimes they're slower than the real market. So if they start now with occupation specific invitation for anything, obviously the jobs are there, but I think even if that occupation is not being selected, there's still lots of jobs out there. So it's less when immigrants come here, like we find out, we've represented many clients over the years, that they find a job. Now, I always say you have to be realistic. I don't think you'll find a job the next day, but usually the average time is about 2 to 4 months to get not just any job, to get a job in your specific industry or occupation.
Yeah, that's because this question is something that a lot of people have uncertainty moving into a new country. They definitely have this question how the job acquisition is going to look like, whether it's going to be complicated or easy. But I should say rather Canada is much easier in terms of job acquisition because of the labor market demands and the countries itself. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of need for human resources. So it's a good place to visit and try to see how you can get a job for yourself. Like Ronen said, I think it would take a little bit of time, but definitely with time it would certainly settle. And the last question that we would like to take up is There is two people asking the same question. For Alberta, is a job offer required? I think, did Jason answer this, or you want to take this up?
So I generally say for the provinces, it's a more than a general answer because we have to look at the particular skills and experience of that individual, and then we can determine to which provinces a job offer is not required. Alberta traditionally has been one that a job offer has been required. Okay, Saskatchewan, for example, that's the main one, and we had lots of successful application that a job offer is not required. They have their own kind of point system. One is tied to an occupation, the other one is tied to the express entry. So it's more of, we always say Canada, always, it's a very, very big country. The good thing about immigration, when you approved for any province or for federally, there's no restriction on mobility. So if you applied under Saskatchewan and you came to Saskatchewan and you're not happy there, you can leave, right? You can leave after a month. There's no set time that you have to stay as long as you show genuine, really interest to be there, right? Throughout the application. But once you're in Canada, and even if you're not happy in Toronto or Vancouver, you're allowed to move to another province.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mr. Ronen and Jason, for answering those questions. I know that you guys have a lot of questions about immigration, about your particular cases. What I would like to strongly request and suggest you all is to kind of get in touch with us. We do consult people and ask and study your case, give case specific answers, and give you a comprehensive analysis on your options, on your journey migrating to Canada. We would love to connect with you all and talk with you all. So we have a Calendly link where you can book a consultation with us, with Ronen himself. He will study your case. He will be analyzing your case and would be giving you a comprehensive review of it. So I'll just put up the link on the comment section. You all can book your appointments there and try to get in touch with us. We would definitely help you all with your application full from end to end. So please feel free to get in touch with us. And without further ado, let me get Ronen to give his final closing remarks before we conclude the webinar today.
So thank you. So it's very exciting times now. So I can tell we're the firm very busy with many programs. We'll talk about new programs coming up. Obviously, this, as somebody mentioned, the PGWP is kind of back even for people who had their visas expired. But I think the biggest news right now, everybody is waiting for the reopening of the express entry, because the express entry is definitely by far the biggest source, at least until today, of economic migrants. And you have to remember, immigration is very specific. You cannot take one case, oh, my friend is an engineer and he got refused. Oh, my friend is an engineer and got approved. Okay, every case is different. The way we do it there, and really we represented thousands of people over the years, is you have to look at your own circumstances. You have to get the right analysis. And we're very candid with all our clients. So if we think you have no chance, we'll tell you, in a very polite way, of course, that you have no chance. And if we think there's way to improve, we'll tell you how. And if we think you have a pretty good case, then you have a good case. But I think the big thing, don't be discouraged, okay? Because I think as one of the questions was, well, the score is going to be very high. It doesn't mean anything, okay? Like as you mentioned, Umar, there are 20-something people who were outside the pool when it was 75 points. Okay, so with the express entry, I always say we know the past, we don't know the future. But if you're eligible for that or one of the PNPs, and of course, if you want to come to Canada, go for it. That's, I think, the summary here.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, Jason and Ronen. I would like to give you a small sneak peek about an exciting project that we've been working. We've been working on something, an AI-based system, which is coming very soon for immigration applications. We would like to invite you all in the coming weeks. Stay tuned with our social media pages. We will be releasing a new breakthrough system where you can get immigration support through us. So stay tuned for that on our social media pages. We will update you all what it is. An exciting project, in fact, I'm working on, and with Ronen and Jason. So thank you very much for joining, everybody. We would love to catch up with you all in the near future, maybe in another webinar. or perhaps maybe in a one-to-one consultation with Ronen himself. So thank you very much for joining, everybody. It's an absolutely a pleasure. Thank you, Jason, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ronen, for inspiring us as well. Thank you
My
very much.
pleasure. Thank you
It's
very
absolutely a
much.
pleasure to meet you all, talk to you all. Until I talk to you guys next time, peace.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.